प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्.
Ashuchihi, they will be ashuchihi. That means Rajasika person, they will not bother about the shuchitva or the purity of what they are doing. Many things will go wrong. They don't bother about it. Harsha shokanvitah karta. They will be either elated or depressed. Because if they are successful, they will be very elated. Next day, if they are unsuccessful, they will be depressed. The last one, 28th. Ayuktah prakritastabdhaha.
Ayuktah prakritastabdhaha.
Shatho naishkritiko lasaha.
Shatho naishkritiko lasaha.
Your book, what is there? Naishkritiko is there? Vishadi dirghasutri cha.
Vishadi dirghasutri cha.
Karta tamasa uchyate.
Karta tamasa uchyate.
So he is saying so many adjectives have been given. Which karta is a tamasika karta? Dirgha sutri. That means everything he delays. Kal karenge, parsu karenge, करते करते करने का रिजल्ट भी और नहीं चाहिए ऐसा. दीर्घ सूत्री. What is the English for दीर्घ सूत्री? Procrastination. Then Vishadi, often remaining uncontented, depressed, lamenting. Tamasika, they will go on lamenting. Nothing has happened to the body, but oh, I have such a disease, I am going to die. Naishkritikaha alasaha. Alasa means idle. Tamasa, that tamasa guna itself is inertness, idleness. So he will be idle. And naishkritikaha, this is very dangerous. That they will, in the name of helping others, they will put into trouble. They will commit to do something, and not doing that, they will put you into trouble. This happens very well in all the voluntary institutions. वहाँ तो salary की बात नहीं है ना. If it is in the factory or so, if you don't do a job you have committed, then there is a punishment. But in a voluntary institution, he will say that I will do this, I will do that, and then finally bunk. Not do. By that, what will happen? The person who is leading, he has taken a certain decision on the basis of your commitment, and you have not done your job, so he will be in trouble. Any sincere person will be in trouble in a voluntary organization. Always. The person who is sincere, he will take everything seriously, and all have committed that I will do this, I will do that. Finally, when it is to be done, all have gone away, and you cannot punish, you cannot cut salary, nothing. It is a voluntary organization. So, बहुत समझ के काम लेना पड़ता है हम लोगों को. बाद में कौन भागेगा वो भी सोचना पड़ता है. These are facts we should know. It is our mind. So this naishkritikaha is a very rare word. Generally we don't find it anywhere. Posing to help, he puts others into trouble. In one tika they are saying, upakar kurya, upakarer bhan kurya paravritti chadan. This is even more dangerous. So these are the meanings given. That posing that I am helping you, he takes away your profession also. Such people are also there. Stabdha means arrogant. Stabdha means, before that Shatha is there. Shatha means deceptive. He deceives. Tamasika person will do all these things. Because to For his idleness or for his defense, he will do all kinds of things. Stabdha means arrogant. But when you counter also, they will be arrogant also. They will fight back. Prakritaha means asamskrita buddhi. Prakritaha means those who are unrefined, not cultured, uncultured. Because culture takes, you have to be active, you have to do something, you have to undergo discipline. They are indisciplined, so they are uncultured also. Ayuktaha, that goes without saying. Ayuktaha means not connected to the truth. You can say they are not moderate also, because they are not guided by the ayuktaha means they are not guided by viveka buddhi. They are guided by their greed, idleness, all those things, desires.
The idleness is more mental, no, rather than
Physical, mental, both. Mental idle, everybody. Mental and intelligential idle, everybody is. Mental idleness is not there, because the mind will go all running. Mental idleness is a different thing. Mental running around, it's a dynamic inertia, I say, because you cannot stop it. Mind stopping, there is problem for you. Mind running, do you have any problem? So jab chakka ghum raha hai, when the wheels are moving, stopping it, you need power to break it. So there it is the dynamic inertia. It is in science, it is called dynamic inertia. It is moving at a certain speed. So my mind is always moving. To stop it, you have to apply the brake that you are not able to. Their idleness is to stopping the mind. But in case of buddhi, it is not like that. Buddhi always we keep hanging somewhere else. We don't apply it. Most of the time we are not applying the buddhi. So their idleness is there. So ayukta prakrita stabdha
ayukta prakrita stabdha
shatho naishkritiko lasaha
shatho naishkritiko lasaha
vishadi dirghasutri cha
vishadi dirghasutri cha
karta tamasa uchyate.
karta tamasa uchyate.
Then it goes over to buddhi bheda, the three kinds of buddhi. Then it goes to dhriti bheda, three kinds of dhriti. Buddhi, whatever we understand with the buddhi, by dhriti we hold on that. Whatever we are understanding, grasping with our buddhi, applying dhriti, we are retaining it. Even if the buddhi becomes sattvika, but the dhriti is not there, then we will not be able to retain the truth. The truth will fall off. It's like the whole bamboo basket. You pour water, it will fall from the pillar. It will take the water. If it is a basket, it will take the water, but it will fall off. Put a vessel. Then dhriti veda, then they will come to sukha veda. What are the three kinds of sukha? Sattvika, rajasika, tamasika. Then he will come to, that is the last. Then it comes to a very important chapter. After saying this, he concludes on the 40th verse saying that na tadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakritijair muktam yadevhisyat tribhirganaihi. In this world or in the other world, in the heaven or hell, nowhere there is anything created in the Prakriti which is not under the clutch of these three gunas. That means without three gunas being there, there won't be any creation. Why? Because sattva guna means enlightenment, revealing, revelation. So suppose there is something here, say there is a particle. If it is not revealed, then it will not be known. So it is as good as it is non-existing for us. To existence, the existence will be meaningful only when it is revealed to our consciousness. Is it not? That is the sattva guna. Sattva guna always is connected directly to the consciousness, and it reveals everything, reveals the truth. Then the rajoguna means action, activity, energy. Without energy, without movement, without action, no creation would be there. Even the elementary particles, if you think of, it is all out of energy only, out of movement. Without energy, without Shakti Kriya, that is why we consider the Prakriti to be a Shakti. It is the Shakti of the Prakriti. So without Rajoguna, there cannot be any creation. Tamoguna means inertia. Without inertia, even if anything is there, it has to stay for, suppose any elementary particle also, to become existent, it has to live for however small time, for some time it has to live. That is its inertia. Tamoguna gives us the inertia, that moving, you need some force to move. That inertia also is a fundamental quality of existence. Without inertia, nothing can exist. So anything that is created or existing will be a combination of the three gunas. The question is that the bondages, when we are considering the three gunas in reference to human personality, as in Bhagavad Gita, then we have to be considering the bondages created by each guna. Tamoguna is having one bondage, Rajoguna another kind, Sattva-guna another kind. Those bondages have to be overcome. We have to overcome the Tamoguna bondage by cultivating more of Sattva-guna and Rajoguna prominence. We have to overcome the Rajoguna bondage by cultivating more of Sattva-guna. And finally, we have to overcome the Sattva-guna bondage by by the sannyasa, or by surrendering. That whatever gunas, let them play, I have nothing to do with it. By understanding through jnana, understanding I am not touched by any of the gunas. The gunas are playing in Prakriti. As in nature, the gunas are working. So many things are born, so many things are destroyed. Everywhere there is the play of gunas. Like that, this body-mind personality is also under the play of the gunas. It is doing whatever it can do, whatever is coming from the circumstances. According to that, it is doing its duty. I am only witness of that. I am no way connected to that. This is Bhagavad Gita's fundamental statement. Saying that, he goes over to the four kinds of varna and all that we have to go later. Which is again very widely misunderstood, and Bhagavad Gita is condemned by many people because of that. That Bhagavad Gita is consolidating caste system and all. It's all foolishness. It is not at all so. It's altogether different. I think I must thank all of you for, if there has been something good which will be applicable to your sadhana, to your life particularly. Certainly it depends mainly, as I always say, that it depends on the audience. If some good words have come out of me, I am what I am. If the words have been helpful and good words have come out, for that the listeners are responsible more. So, if it has been useful, then I am happy. And we also try to make it more relevant. I don't know how much we are successful. Our thought is more on how to explain so that it becomes immediately relatable, relevant, so that people can apply in their life. Because self-realization nobody wants generally. But everybody wants to become good human being and wants to become happy and contented. In that process, if we have been able to help, then it is definitely something worthwhile. Or kuch batana? Karma sangraha means the which constitutes the karma. Constituents. Like our all food materials, they like the ingredients, niche. It is like that. And karma chodana means the motivation. What motivates it? Kuch pata na hai? But you did not come yesterday. Yesterday I was about to answer. But that, if you have heard me, then it is not necessary to explain. Because you are asking whether consciousness is made of electron, protons and all. Consciousness is not in the objective field. Consciousness is the amness in us. It is a subject. So there is no question of any material coming into the consciousness. The consciousness, Atma, we are speaking about, it is the subject. It's not the object. It is the revealer of the entire objective world, which consists of electron, proton, or whatever, elementary particles or not. That also is made of consciousness, but that we don't know. No. We know very well because it is what I am. You cannot know anything better than that. We don't know even the flower, what is it made of, but we definitely know what I am. That is the only knowledge which is complete, Purna. All other knowledges are incomplete. Understanding and transforming our personality. Spirituality is being in the sky-like, all-embracing dimension of the mind. This is what spirituality is. Being in the sky-like, all-embracing dimension of the mind. Growing that dimension. With the lopsided growth of materialistic civilization over the past 4 decades, there has been a phenomenal increase in distraction, stress, competition, greed, and fear in the minds of people, especially the youth. Constant anxiety of acquiring what I don't have, or fear of losing what I have. Constant clinging to what I like, or fear of facing what I don't like, have made our mind weak, in fact, slave to the objects and external situations. We are looking for joy and peace from the external world, but in pursuit of happiness, we have made the world a source of stress, fear, and unhappiness. We never care to look within to discover that the real source of joy and peace lies inside our own mind, that our mind has immense power and potential to make our life fulfilled. We also want to deal it with to the maximum depth possible. Suppose whatever we have learned from our lifelong sadhana, if I remember from childhood I have been a seeker, as far as I can remember, maybe from the age of 4, 5 or 2. So throughout the life, whatever I have thought, whatever I have learned, it has been a life of sadhana. So when we present something, we do the best, whatever we have learned, and what we think to be the most important in life, what is essential to get over the problems of life. So that kind of a discussion, it is very difficult to have when the listener's mind are floating here and there. So although people often complain that स्वामी जी आप लोग PhD लेवल में बोलते हैं तो कोई नहीं आने वाले हैं, तो क्या करेंगे, हम PhD लेवल का ही है, तो हम जो जानते हैं वही बोल सकते हैं, अगर लोग आए तो आए, ना आए तो ना आए. This has been always my principle. We will try to serve everybody, but we can serve everybody. For that we have some bhajans, we have some other entertaining lectures and all. Generally people come for bhajans or other things because it is entertaining. They want a little inspiration or some emotional enrichment. But the problem is that even to listen to lecture also people come for entertainment. That is, when the lecture is entertaining, they like to listen to. When the lecture is putting you under pressure of transformation, that I am doing something not all right and I have to transform myself, then it creates a stress in the mind. Such lectures many people will not hear unless there is a great eagerness to transform our being, to evolve and to become pure. Generally people will not like to listen. Some, whenever knowledge is given initially, maybe they will be, oh, aisa to kabhi nahi sune hain, it's very new and very great and all. But it will not be sustained. So we want that whatever lifetime we have, we would like to do something which will be sustainable, which at least a few people will be able to grasp it and retain it and give it to others in their lifetime. Because this Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of the truth, is even now available. We don't know, it is prehistoric. How many thousands of years have passed. It was going from mouth to mouth, from the guru to the disciple, teacher to the student. How many thousands of years also we don't know, because it is prehistoric. There is no point in saying so many thousands or so many years it has started from here. Nobody can say. So how did it progress? Suppose in one era, if there had been not a single teacher and not a single student, you understand? To communicate the knowledge, at least one teacher and one student will be necessary. Both of whom will be fully serious. The teacher must try to give the best and the essence of the truth, and the student must be eagerly seeking for that truth. If it is missed in one generation, the knowledge would have been lost. Because it is not the knowledge of the book. It is like lighting a flame with a lit flame. The fire can be communicated. When you have a fire, you light other fires with that. So even in one time, if there was no guru or no teacher, then the whole knowledge would not have come down to us. Although it is written now in the books, but that is only a picture of the knowledge, picture of the fire. It's not the real fire. It has to be learned from a person who has lived the knowledge, for whom each word of the Vedas, each word of the Upanishad, each word of Bhagavad Gita becomes living to them, that they must think that this is what I would like to say. It is not Krishna, but I would also say like that. This has become real in my life. So for him, the Shastras will speak, all the literature, those words will become alive. Generally the words are dead. They will, if you read the book, you will not understand anything. It will not inspire you. The word will become alive only by our sadhana. When we do ourselves, when we purify ourselves, we find the truth and we understand the depth of the words. So generally this truth has to be communicated from a realized guru to the eager students. Then only it will be preserved. So somehow nature has seen, or the Creator has seen, that it is preserved, that still we are having this knowledge with us after so many thousands of years. We are still able to understand what has been written. And the language also is such a great language they have created, that even now we are able to. Suppose even the latest scriptures, say Bhagavad Gita, about 5,500 or 5,000 years old minimum. That also, the language is so simple to us, we can understand. Can you imagine, is there any such language in the world? Other language? Yet language becomes old within 200 years, 300 years. Nobody will be able to understand. I am told that Mao Zedong had written some poems. He was writing poems which the present generation do not understand. They are not able to understand. That means the language he used, within 50 years it has become obsolete in China. I don't know whether I am true, but this is what a person from China told me. So that happens to our literature also, very old literature nobody will read. But how is it that it is still vibrant in the society, still we are knowing? It is only because of the eternal truth that these scriptures are carrying. And this eternal truth is a truth about nothing of the world, it is about our own self, about our own identity. So when we start living that identity, that truth is carried down to the generation after generation, next generation, like that. So naturally we cannot expect that very large crowd will be listening or so. It will be less, but we would like to have very attentive listening. Then only the good words will come with power. We are not speakers. It is wrong to say we are speakers. We are not speakers. We don't prepare a speech and speak about it. Seeing the people, whoever is seated, whatever comes out of the mouth, I am the first listener. Whatever comes out, we are listening to that. And what will come out, it depends on the listeners. If the people are all, they are not receptive, they are all dozing, they are not responding to what we are saying, then it becomes very stressful for us, very strenuous, not stressful, but strain for us to speak. We have to struggle to as if hitting against a stone wall. It is not penetrating anywhere. So we have to struggle to penetrate, but it won't work. We will only lose energy and we will become tired by that. But when there is a receptive audience, that energizes us. And whatever comes out, we understand that the good things are coming out in a good manner, in some novel manner or so. So it is this communication, it needs both the teacher and the students, both the speaker and the listeners, and their attunement to the knowledge. Without eagerness, this attunement cannot be there. Not only eagerness, it is a love on the part of the speaker also. Unless we love people and we would like to carry this knowledge to the society so that they are relieved of the negative aspects the society is suffering from, we will not be able to. Just with the intention of making a very good speech, even if we write down and prepare and all, it might be a good TED talk like thing, but it won't be having the effect we are trying to have. So it should be a natural expression and natural reception which can take place when there is a harmony between the speaker and there is enough of love from the teacher and enough of humility and receptivity from the listener. Then only the best of the communications will take place. Trying to give people are now rational, they are logical. So how a rational person will look at the Vedas and the Upanishads and how they can gain the right thing from there and not get deluded by many things which are mentioned there. So this kind of a presentation I have never given. After talking, I was feeling very fulfilled in that what came out, I have never spoken like that, it is something new. Maybe in Irvine, this time in California, somewhat like this had come out to some extent, but not like this fully. So this is what we want, and so retreat I cancelled because of that, because the people who had applied, we would not have been able to do some real service for that. And one is 17 years old and another is they applied, they very eagerly, they pleaded that please accept us. One was 84-year-old, another was 90-year-old, like that. So how do you balance a small girl, 17 or 18 years old, another old couple? It's extremely difficult to give anything like that. Not only that, both of them did not have any exposure to it, but their intention will be altogether different. We cannot speak like that. So instead we thought of having the morning sessions for the serious listeners, which will be open. There won't be any age limitation or anything. It will be open to the serious speakers. So only condition that they have to attend all the classes. One or two may miss because of they have taken prior permission also, that they have some really urgent work. That is okay. But we want to ensure the eagerness. That was the point.